Okay, now I'd like to give you an overview of the transform organization. The first thing we do when we do a transform is we set all the output coefficients to 0 so that we can add stuff to them. That's step 0. So step 1 is we compute binomial trees from the signal data. So just like I showed you in the last video, those nested binomial trees, that's what we calculate from the original signal data, and we store all of those results as virtual samples, if you will. We call them monomials in the code. A monomial is either an original piece of signal data or it's a binomial tree of that data. And it's just a scalar value saying this is what the whole tree adds and multiplies up to. The second thing we do is we multiply the signal samples or the binomial trees thereof. And again, these are both scalar values at the end of the day, by various ratios. Now, those ratios are given in a data table. And depending on which format it's in, it's either called the literal list, or the number list, or the fixed list, or the custom list. Okay? So that's what we do there. And then basically all these products that are computed in step 2, we just simply add them to the right coefficient that they're supposed to be added to. And that's it. Now, one thing that we don't do is we don't take a look into what I call transform songs, like singing, like songs, because some of the transforms, particularly the simpler ones, like Fourier or discrete cosine transform, are very, very rhythmical. So the way in which the coefficients the way in which we add the values that come out of number 2 to the coefficients in number 3 happen at very regular and predictable indices, at least in certain cases. And you might be able to exploit that to basically reduce the size of the database or to create very tight loops as opposed to a large database of instructions. So there are, especially when we start thinking of cache utilization, there are some efficiencies that could probably be gained by studying that. However, I will tell you, obviously, the more complicated the orthobasis transform, the less obvious rhythms there are. So there's actually less of that to exploit. But that is, in a nutshell, how Orthohack works. I will say this. The transform code is designed to be very clean and very portable, but the other parts of Orthohack are a bit awkward. I hope they're generally numerically valid and sensible, but they are awkward. And I could well imagine that the whole thing could be repackaged into some kind of a nice lab tool or something. It's open source. Do what you want with it. Contact me if you have questions. But I do have one other video because I want to discuss some other potential uses for Orthohack.